in here in a second.
Cool. Cool.
What's the word, man? What's the word?
Just a long week already. I wish it was further along than Tuesday.
Damn.
What about you?
Shoot, I mean, same kind of thing. I mean, shoot, I've been having some pretty good meetings, especially for Produce Matrix. Think I might have a different spin on how things kind of get rolled out now with the Bitcoin mining hydroponics process. After
Okay.
talking, yeah, think I might go a little bit more easier route to do that, and also help local farmers and stuff like that get into the whole ag tech side of things. So obviously that's something that we can cover on Thursday and stuff like that. So yeah, but just hopped on. We got our first guest. Oh man, we here. We're big time, bro. We're big time.
I
You can
know.
hear us?
First class, Victoria. Can you hear us?
Maybe she on mute.
Not sure. Maybe we're not coming through. No, we can't hear you. I can see your mouth though. I know you're talking.
Let's see. It feels like we're going back to the pandemic days when we had to figure out Zoom and stuff.
No, it really is. Um,
You're still on mute right now.
let's see. Edit
See if
mics.
it, because sometimes you might have to like give your mic permission.
Yeah. There's nothing on my end that's saying it's not working.
Gotta love tech.
Right?
As two tech guys, here we are
Here we are.
messing with rudimentary tech. Does it give you Victoria? Does it give you an option for the mic?
I think she's logging out and coming back in.
Okay, but yeah, so gotta love technical difficulties the first time you get your guest on, right?
Right? First guess. We'll smooth this out in time.
Exactly. We'll have it smooth like a newborn baby.
Yeah, exactly.
But but I was thinking about I'm still thinking about that Farmville game, man. I was thinking about giving it like a futuristic kind of feel,
Mm-hmm.
and to say with like the Produce Matrix theme. And
Yeah.
then now like you would buy like little hydroponics, you would buy little aquaponics, and then now you like stack up your like ag tech stuff, solar panels, all this other stuff. So then now what we just do is take Farmville, but then put it on steroids, and then now take it futuristic with all the ag tech side of things. So now you wouldn't even have to like really like do your character all the time. You just get your hydroponics, they'll grow, you would harvest it, and then now you'd sell it, and then boom. We just show the new age of agricultural tech. Oh,
I think
Ah,
Hey,
I think
Victoria.
I
We can hear
think
you.
perfect. Perfect. I could not hear you guys, and you guys could not hear me last time.
let's go. Let's go. We in the building. But yeah, we was just talking about so last time we had a little idea that working with my project of coming up with like a mobile game for nonprofits. And so basically, have you ever heard of the game Farmville?
Yes, I have.
So basically, my project's with the whole produce matrix thing. So we're gonna kind of create like a gaming arm to where you can be able to purchase, or in this case, like game and get your little agricultural tech stuff like hydroponics and all this other stuff. Your character grows their little things, but then now your in-game purchases go to fund actual urban gardens in Kansas City and stuff like that.
Oh, I like that. I like that a
Yeah.
lot.
So then now when people are buying and paying for the little characters and whatnot, they end up getting, it's like, oh, I can go see where my actual little tokens or whatever it is went to. So just a little idea of what kind of shenanigans we get up to on this podcast and stuff like that. So shoot, you want to obviously you want to start off with introducing yourself and just tell us a little bit about what you got going on, and what brings you on the show, and we just decided to hear about it.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm this camera. I can't figure out how to get myself centered. So, my name is Victoria. I have worked in healthcare IT my entire career. I worked for Cerner for a very, very long time. I work for one of their partners now, so still in the tech IT world. As a hobby, I ride horses. So I'm at my barn now, sitting outside of it. I think I showed you guys Frankie earlier tonight. Um, so yeah, so my love is for riding horses, and one thing that I'm working on is really creating a more streamlined workflows for horses, but then also people as well. So one thing I kind of want to focus on is how can we get a medical record that you own.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the idea is, there are so many clinics popping up that aren't like holistic clinics,
Mhm.
herbalists, people who are doing blood work that for you that isn't necessarily going through your insurance, and a lot of this isn't covered by insurance. It's covered, you're paying out of pocket for it. And then you have multiple medical records across multiple venues of care. How do you get that into one? How can you just own your own medical record? So I've got an idea that I'm working on to pull all of that together into one centralized place.
Nice.
That, like I said, I mean, I feel like right now we're in a space where a lot of us that have seen technology for a while now, we're kind of just like, okay, we've seen these issues that have been going on for a long time. All right, how can I just use it to solve this issue that it seems that nobody wants to fix? And obviously, I mean, everybody that's gone to, the hospital or anything, even if it's just like, taking animals, it's like you can't you just got like, oh, how am I going to figure out what my medical records? They have to call this person, and it's like, we're in 2023. Why do you have to still call somebody to figure out something that is most likely digital in some sense?
Right. And it'd be great if you lived you worked for the same company the entire time. So you always are going to an in-network provider and you're going to the same hospital system. That is the best case scenario. But how many people switch jobs and they go to different doctors?
Yep.
Their insurance doctors may go in and out of network, and now you have your medical record system across multiple venues of care. And how do you get that into one centralized place? The idea would be is you as the patient should own your medical record. So it's just an idea I'm kind of working on here to get it all centralized.
Yeah. No, I think that that's a very real problem that you're pointing out and focused on, and obviously you showed a bunch of examples of how that would be, a scenario that people would really, really need to own their medical records. I actually met a woman last week who has a company here in town who's doing medical record sharing also, that you made me think of. That I don't know if you've seen this business at all, but it might be cool to look into just for benchmarking purposes. But she's been, I guess, pushing data between like Epic and Cerner for patient records.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
she was telling me a lot about the legal challenges with basically all the like specific certificates, digital certificates you have to issue alongside the medical records to verify them with these institutions when they want to pull that record in. Um, and so, anyways, long story short, cool company. You've got a very awesome real problem you're tackling. So, it'll be exciting to see where you go with it.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
so you were saying you were starting with helping with the horses records to begin with, as sort of like a point of entry to start building this out, or are you doing both patient records and horse records right out of the gate?
So I wanted to focus on animals first.
Mm-hmm.
So, and kind of go from there.
So,
Cool.
so kind of going. So I would say, let me ask this question because that's obviously a big space. So with animals, I mean, there's a lot of things that I think that can obviously get solved, but how for you with medical records, with people getting that information, a lot of times having all that information in one place, is that like I know you mentioned a lot with Web3 technology right now, they're kind of going away from the centralization, so that way people can kind of per se really own their ownership. You know, it's kind of like I relate it to like if we all put our backpacks in one place and we all left and all our backpacks were there, then somebody would probably be able to break in and get our backpacks. But then now it's like the same concept what you were talking about with people owning their own medical records, is that essentially that they would just be like, okay, I'm basically just going to take my backpack everywhere I go. And then now, kind of like what you said, it's like I go with my little backpack to this hospital. So if I do get in an accident, which I think that most accidents and things like that, you're probably not going to be in your network. More than likely, you'll probably be at a hospital that's probably not covered by your insurance. That's usually how life goes. So what do you think right now is the biggest hurdle in the medical record space, particularly as a whole? Is it, I mean, money is a big thing. I think that money is the real incentive of why they're, because everybody wants to keep their own data. But what do you think personally right now is like one of the biggest hurdles that you would probably face in that space?
Yeah, so really, so thinking about it from an EMR perspective, there are so many different databases out there that have different structures and they may name things a little bit differently. So how do you route everything to one master database, right? For it all to be shared. So if, one health system, may have it labeled, or it's the way that there's, and like there's, IT structure is maybe different from someone else to where they can't route or communicate. I know there are the HIEs that are out there, which is helping tremendously with this to get it all in one space. But again, that's helping the health system share data.
Yeah.
How do I get my data?
Exactly.
There's definitely a lot of applications out there that allows stuff to communicate across each other's, but how does that get to my portal? How do I see all of that information? So I know, so specifically, I've had some health issues since I was 25. So I've been managing my healthcare and I've been bouncing between different doctors. I want to see my labs in one cohesive place because I want to see how my blood work and my everything I'm testing. I want to
changed
see
over time.
I can't see that unless if I just want to look at labs, I can only look at it, and that's if everything was done at Quest Diagnostics, and I could see it that way because it's all done through Quest. But I've gone to different doctors, and they all don't use Quest Diagnostics. So I'm now entering everything into Excel so I could see my records.
Wow. And that's an even crazier thing. So you're right now, you're basically documenting your records yourself over time.
So I can see it. And I've also gone down the journey where I don't necessarily like to take prescriptions. I'm going a more the holistic route, eating healthy, doing more herb, holistic, homeopathy type of medicine, opposed to going through big pharma for a lot of things. So a lot of the doctors I see are a little bit, the way they do things are a little bit different, right? So again, trying to pull all that data into one place, but I want my records. I want to see it. So that way, if I go to a new doctor or a new specialist, I can pull it up and I can show them, hey, here's what's trending. But here's the next problem. Sometimes when you go and you do that, and some of those doctors look at you like you're crazy when you bring them all of the paperwork. It's and it's also hard for them to read it when it's all in paper, right?
Yeah.
Man, so go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was saying that basically, I mean, it sounds like we need medical record trading cards where it's if I was to get into a car accident and maybe they needed to bring me blood, you don't how would you know? It's you should be able to have some type of way to be okay, hey, we're driving, especially in emergency, because I'm thinking from the medical side. If we're on the way to a hospital and we got to put this person in surgery, we need to know now what type of blood and all those other medical record things, if this person can go under. Because what if you're not supposed to go under and we put you under because we're just okay, yeah. Then next thing you die.
Or you have an allergy.
Exactly.
And you have,
Wow. Yeah. It's so.
So I know we don't want to go too much into the solution, so we'll leave a lot more mystery to this. But, here on Yumi and ChatGPT, we love to delve into business problems that you might be facing, challenges you might be having, especially ones that we can answer in sort of a documented or question kind of format, because that's how we really leverage ChatGPT on the show. So Victoria, are there any things, and maybe this could even just come down to helping us advance our homework for the Tech Venture Studio class on Thursday, even. But are there any sort of projects that you have in the business intelligence space where you're trying to understand your customer persona better, or maybe there's some sort of documentation investors or prospective investors have asked you for that, you don't want to take the time to produce just yet, or might take you a couple hours you haven't set aside yet. Now's a great time because we can help you produce that document in real time on the show. It's
Yeah.
that's what
Um, Yeah, so okay, if we could break like maybe I don't know if ChatGPT could even if maybe getting some statistics around it. So if we wanted to see how many like functional doctors and then holistic herbalist doctors are out there, is that something that ChatGPT could help us with?
Oh yeah.
To look at maybe some statistics on what that looks like.
Yeah, let's find out.
We probably ask like what percentage of doctors are alternative doctors,
Mhm. And then maybe like even how like what percentage of doctors are moving towards a pay in full model where they're not actually leveraging insurance anymore because they're sick of dealing with insurance denials, all the rules that come along with it, and they just want to focus on patient care. How many
We
doctors are
might have,
starting from that?
yeah, we may have to do them as multiple
Oh
questions.
yeah,
It doesn't
definitely.
even
Sorry,
read
I'm just
No,
throwing
no,
them
no.
out there now.
No, great idea. So just, okay. So the first one, what was the exact term you used for those two types of alternative hospitals or healthcare
Um,
options?
like holistic or functional doctors.
Yeah, I've never really thought about this. I'm interested in this as well because you got to think as we're going more towards an information age, people are starting to find different alternatives to not having to go and take a bunch of pills.
Exactly. I don't know about you guys, but I've got um some garlic at home fermenting and honey. Apparently
Garlic
that's supposed to
fermenting
help.
and honey.
Yes, that is a whole thing. And then another big one is like oregano
Hmm.
and olive oil, and it just getting oregano oil is supposed to really be good for you as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how many, and like I said, I say it all the time. I feel like the internet has taught me more than school has in these last few years, because sometimes I get on like TikTok and they'll throw these like crazy like organic things that you can do for yourself, and
Yes.
you can.
Yes.
I think I saw Connor. You ever seen this stuff where it's like if you put like onion slices in the bottom of your feet or something that, like detoxifies your body or some crazy thing like that, bro.
Yes, I've seen that as well.
So you know what I'm talking about. So I'm not crazy.
Yes, you're not crazy. I've never tried it because I was worried about all my sheets smelling horrible
Yeah,
afterwards.
I was the exact same way. I was like, that sounds cool, but I'm not about to put that in my socks. Like, I don't care what anybody says. So yeah, it's cranking out a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it looks like it's giving us a narrative format, but there's links at least.
All right, what's it got?
So it said basically the holistic and functional medicine sectors within the healthcare system have been experiencing significant growth, reflecting a rising demand for personalized patient-centric healthcare approaches. This trend is particularly evident in the field of functional medicine, where private practices are thriving due to their ability to provide specialized root cause oriented care. These practices are increasingly appealing to physicians seeking a work environment less susceptible to burnout compared to conventional fee for service models. The growth in functional medicine is also influencing recruitment strategies with a need for more aggressive and competitive talent acquisition approaches due to staffing shortages and the specialized nature of the field. And then
That makes
it's
sense. It
it's
would
like
probably be easier to be like a doctor influencer on TikTok and be like a holistic doctor than to work for a pharmacy. Like,
Sure.
Nowadays,
And
like,
this looks like it's coming from an interview with the CEO of the company. So
Yeah.
it's someone's opinions. Um, anyways, okay, so 59 million Americans are seeking treatment outside of the medical mainstream. So not exactly the statistic we're looking for, but
what's that? 300? Isn't it 300 and some odd million people in America?
it does include acupuncture and chiropractic therapies. Would that be like sort of
Yeah. Yeah.
something we'd need to strip out basically?
Nope, that would be part of it. So I actually went. I was on a plane going to Florida a couple months ago, and I ended up sitting next to his name is Dr. Goodbinder. I think he's a licensed chiropractor. He has a office out in Overland Park, Kansas. Look him up. I guess he's traveled the country and world giving speeches about pretty much functional medicine. Again, he is that chiropractor. I went in and I did a consult with him. It was very expensive, super cool what he's doing, but it's a very unique and different style of approaching medicine, going to the root cause, asking questions. I mean, going so far back to when you were born as were you, breastfed or were you, given formula? And it's starting at that, were you sick when you were born? What, antibiotics were you given when you were born right away? So it was a very different and interesting tactic to get to the root cause. So going as far back as when your, microbiome in your gut was first um, exposed pretty much to different drugs and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, that sounds very comprehensive. Uh, the it pulled up some stats. I don't know if this is useful for you, but this is on billing by those alternative practitioners, and it's a breakout adult versus children, and then it has a few other codes
So
there.
So what would
But
be really helpful for me with asking, and this is where I get confused, just because I have the lack of knowledge here. And so if I am wanting to build an app, I'm a solution or sales engineer, so I'm kind of the piece between the workflow and
sure.
the engineer. So how would I go about, like, that's where I get kind of stuck in the weed or stuck is, how do I make my idea more tangible? How do I apply all of what I want to do into a format that can be um
well, I think that one of the things is, and I've just kind of been touching on the book from the class kind of thing, is that if you can find a definite problem and then just hone in on that problem, like right now, it's obviously medical records is the main thing, or access to it, or in this case, even maybe access to holistic. Because maybe even create a platform to start, even just with holistic care, because knowing where to be able to
right.
get that would be just a platform that, hey, these are the holistic doctors around you. And then now having the options to be able to keep your records or whatnot within your account. But then now you have the only thing with medical records is that it's a whole different ballgame of data because of HIPAA. HIPAA is basically like the big gorilla in the room, just standing there waiting for you to do something
Right,
stupid.
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
So right, but if I wanted to create like a database to start from, I mean, where would I even go? Because I mean, I'm used to working with, like, would I go to like an AWS server, or would I go like an Oracle server? Is that where you would start, or where would you start to really create that database? It's
I
an
mean,
app format.
are you gonna? It doesn't sound like you're doing the actual engineering development, so maybe
No.
I would start with what does your partner, your development partner know, or what are the requirements of your industry? Since it's healthcare records, I know AWS is already certified for a bunch of the
Mhm.
requirements you'd need for healthcare patient data, so they'd be ready to go out of the box, right? So
Right,
it
that's what I was
probably,
thinking.
yeah, so it probably is AWS, but it'd be worth it to look out there and see if there's other cloud service providers in the medical kind of patient
Mhm.
record space that might be cheaper and still comprehensive enough to meet your needs. Amazon's not the cheapest option. So that's one of the things that would make it worth considering looking at an alternative for that
Right.
database. But out of the box, Amazon's probably super standard, and a lot of engineers are going to know. So a lot of the details you have in your head already. What I generally would do with like ChatGPT as an exercise is ask for a document that I know I need to produce in order to get this going. So in this case, like a project management scope or a product scoping document that describes the complete feature set of your first product or the complete feature set of the whole system. And then from there, you could pare it down to what is the smallest piece of this that I can make money off of, because you ultimately have to boil it down to that to start with, to kind of get this thing off the ground. But that's kind of where I was kind of going with this prompt. I asked it to put together a product scope for your project, and also to kind of put in the places where you'd have to fill in additional details around the project requirements that you would need in order to take to one of these engineers to have them to start building it.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm looking for. It's something that I would then hand over. Granted, I do have like an Excel document with it all kind of like mapped out how I would give it to like one of our engineers if I was, to hand off something.
Mm-hmm. And it's probably like something that you can translate to more engineers using a document that's a little bit more universal.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
Perfect.
essentially,
That's what I was looking for.
yeah. So you take once you know the document's name that you want it to produce, you give it, you can just give it a big blob of text, stream of consciousness you write, and then tell it you want it to reformat that idea into this document, and then you get a first draft of the document. Then what I would do is go section by section within the document and flesh it out where it writes the vast majority of it for you. You tell it this is the section of the document it's writing, but then you go into more details correcting it about what it got wrong in that first draft. And then you go section by section filling that out. And once you have that done, you can bring that to an engineer, and that engineer can say, all right, okay, a good engineer is going to be able to break that down and say, all right, I need to build this component, and this component is going to break down into these 15 tasks, and they're going to build an Excel spreadsheet. Maybe this is what you have, right? Okay, I need to build this module. This module is built in these 4 steps. Then I need to build this module, and it collects these 30 pieces of information, transforms it this way, and then these, if you have that documentation already, this is the complement to that sort of lays out the project scope and then allows them to read how to read those Excel files potentially. Unless the Excel file, like, I don't know what they look like. So I don't
Right.
know.
And then like I know other times what we've done is like we've literally mocked up a version of what we want it to look like in like PowerPoint, and then we would hand that over as well, so that way we have a visual of what we want it to look like as well. So I've started working on that too.
Once you have those, you can take it to a dev shop and they can give you a quote on it, right? Because those are the 3 different components they need in order to give you a price for how long it's going to take them to build it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then now, especially when you have the scope, and then now they say it's X amount, especially now here in KC, you can go to things like a digital sandbox and be able to pitch and be like, hey, this dev shop said it's going to be $20,000 to curate our MVP. Once you've given the pitch of what it's for, then now they'll be like, oh, okay, well, she's going to take this $20,000 and go get this done.
So you would need to buy this. You would need to buy like the space on the server, which is going to be obviously AWS, and then go to it. Like, who would be like a dev shop? Like, who would be one of those places to go to? Is there any like local ones, or how do you find someone to do that?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't want to like sell you my services right now, but my company does web development and
Oh,
does
okay.
app development and does this type of work. So, you know, you could come to Playhouse, but there's other companies in town that you could also go to. There's one in Joplin called Midwestern Development that's really, really good. They have a very large office with very reputable teams. I met with them when I won the Digital Sandbox grant to produce my MVP. I wanted to use the grant money to do it. So I had to go out and ask other dev shops because I'm not allowed to use the prize money with my own company. That's kind of how that works. But anyways, so we spoke with a few different ones. My uncle has a dev shop in Mexico, so I went with that. It was mostly to repay him for work he's done in the past for us. But
Okay, cool.
yeah, but there are a few other shops that I'm aware of in town. Blast Tech is one that both Rich and I have done work with. They're pretty robust.
Yeah.
So I
Cool.
mean, it really depends. Like, you know, Grand River Analytics, based on what you're doing, comes to mind because they're very focused on setting up data warehouses and security systems for data centered products, which is what you're building.
Mhm.
Um, and they have plenty of familiarity with AWS. Matt Koppel's like a 25-year industry veteran in the IT space. So but anyways, you know, you have your back end that you need to get set up to store and structure for all this patient data, but you also need a front end interface.
For
Um,
UI.
yeah, and I'm sure because you're in the healthcare space, it probably can't be a JavaScript framework because there's a lot of sensitivities to that. So
Mhm.
you probably need something. I don't know how they feel about Python, but you know, maybe a Flask framework works for them, something like that. But
Right.
yeah, so you need those two things, but then they can give you a price and a timeline for how long it would take to put it together. And that's why I think it's probably worth it as an exercise for you to go through the full product scope and then
Mhm.
figure out if there's one feature in there that like you could get started with that you know people would pay money for. That's the one that you should choose as your MVP, basically.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Yeah. Oh,
obviously that's easier said than done.
which
Yeah.
is which is a
Yeah,
very interesting thing.
you've kind of narrowed it down so far because I was looking at a much bigger scale picture of something to do, and I have narrowed it down so far. So,
Nice.
Yeah, because like especially too, it's like even kind of piggybacking off of what Connor was saying, like finding one specific problem. Maybe it's a specific demographic. Maybe it's okay, maybe we're going to do medical records specifically for women. And then now it's like, okay, yeah, we're going to do for women because women's health records and those different things is getting jumbled up. And then now it's like, all right, we'll move over to these things once we get to that point. But then now you have, or maybe it's moms,
I
those are the type of things.
I
So
kind of liked where, and you know, this is me pushing my own 2 cents on here, but I liked where you're going, where it's like these alternative health offices also need medical records. They're also way more likely to be probably in the same spirit of patients owning their healthcare data. And
yeah.
so if you're telling them they're participating in this network and this
ooh,
project or product, I think that they're probably also likely to be advocates for you.
they might
Um,
even pay for they might pay for the platform, to be honest. You could have them be a subscription and be like, it's a
Hmm.
user vendor subscription. Is like, hey, if you're on alternative medicine, you pay $20 a month to be able to use our platform, which now you can be able to distribute medical records of what blood test, what this thing you did, and then now on this platform, all your medical records is here. So I
Right.
think that'd be a great avenue for you to do. Like,
Yeah. No, definitely.
yeah, that'd be definitely dope. Because then now it's like for every person that's doing alternative medicine, you would literally have more or less a documented itinerary of everything you've gotten done, and more or less now it basically turns the mirror to traditional medicine. It's like, okay, well, if alternative medicine has something like this, why doesn't traditional?
Hmm.
Which, as we very much know, people are going to go to where they see value. And if people are using alternative medicine and they're getting better and they can document that,
the data
how
and
would
the
I?
documentation is also going to be very huge because it's like the proof is in the pudding kind of thing, you
Yep.
know? it's like a lot of people like to discount alternative medicine a lot
Yeah.
of the time, but the data will eventually be powerful enough to speak to it,
Yep.
and you could be the one really telling that story, Victoria. But
Yeah,
also,
no,
yeah,
definitely.
Man.
okay, cool. Sorry.
So it seems like the alternative medicine medical records platform.
Mhm.
Dang. Yeah, I do it, especially like you said, since chiropractic, because that's another thing. Because I didn't realize like chiropractic and acupuncture, they they have their effects on, I believe it's like cholesterol, high blood pressure, those different type of things. So it's like you're probably taking pills for those different type of things. What if you
Yeah.
went to a chiropractor, got adjusted, started feeling better, and your blood pressure went down? That's documented proof.
Yeah, exactly. And then some of them are crazy. So that Dr. Goodbinder and a couple other ones that I've gone to, they have like a pressure chamber where you get in. It looks like it looks like a little tiny submarine that you get into. And then another one is they've got the ozone where you can
Okay.
get in and you can like breathe. Like it has this machine that goes off and it creates different magnetic fields that you breathe in and your body soaks it in.
What does a cryo, does that count? Like the
Yeah, cryo
cryotherapy?
would be another one. Yeah.
See, now that I'm thinking, it's like now all this stuff that we're seeing is modern stuff that I was like, oh, well, that's just medicine. It's like, well, technically, actually, it's really not, because Big Pharma doesn't really like you getting in cryo and being able to make yourself better just by standing in the cold for a little bit, or
Yeah.
people that are doing ice baths now.
Yes, exactly.
Damn.
Huge.
Holy so then now you could literally be this is an innovative project, because now I'm thinking
Yeah.
about like,
Well, think about IoT stuff and all these home health devices and the home monitoring and like doing real-time patient records and like
Well, how about even like breath work and
Mhm.
meditation and
oh my goodness.
because you should be able to track all of that. And then because sometimes some people start doing that kind of stuff and then they may fall off. But if they could track it and it also statistically prove an increase in blood
and
pressure, all of that, like even, just doing one of those things where like the whole heart monitor, and if you can put correlation and say that this is statistically helping you, wouldn't ones continue doing it?
and Apple is already tracking this data on you. Fitbit and Google's already tracking this data on you. So you know that the records are kind of getting produced and out there. It's
You
just
just got
not
to put it in one place.
yeah.
So
Right.
question, because now that I'm thinking, and that's a great point that you made, Connor. Would it be possible now? Obviously, you would have to figure out licensing or whatnot. If I already have, like, for instance, a Fitbit or a Apple Watch, more or less, you would just say, "Hey, how can I create an integration on the back end to be able to be like, hey, I went to the chiropractor, and now my Apple Watch says that my blood pressure went down." So you don't even have to technically have the medical records. What you're doing is just basically taking things that are already done and then just putting it all together in your platform. And it just so happens to be with alternative medicine uses. So I think it's a lot of the things that you're trying to do are already being done.
It is. It's just putting it into one place.
Oh, that's damn. I didn't even think
That
and
one place for me is the blockchain in some ways. Where do you have any thoughts on that long term?
You know what? The first time I heard about blockchain was last week.
Okay.
So I was, hey, can you educate me on it?
yeah, no, I mean, more or less, I mean, me and Connor are in this space. Long story short, how I explain it is just like it's a very open source ledger. Long story short, it's just basically a big open notebook that you can be able to see. Now, when you have public and private keys, you can dictate what's seen and what's not seen.
Okay,
So
cool.
more or less, you can be like, okay, hey, my public records can be my blood pressure went down for 7 days. All right, you can decide that you can put that out, and that's on the user.
Right,
So,
and things like allergies would be cool on that.
yep,
Your blood type,
exactly. So things that, yeah, like I said,
emergency contact,
maybe I'm a donor, maybe I want to be a donor, those different type
donor.
of things. So then you would be able to put that in your public key. Now, in your private key would be X-rays, all the things that, for instance, right now that your medical space is making money off of. So
Right. So if
basically,
I wanted, let's say I wanted to share that with someone, How would I do that? And maybe I don't want to share everything. I just want to be able to go in and maybe check what I could share and just share a sliver of it.
Connor, you can go ahead and he's the data man, so we kind of team it up. But Connor, you can go ahead and tell her.
No, I think the way that you were talking through it is probably a really good, easy, clear-cut way to bucket the things. There's what's public and what's private, and whatever is private can become semi-public to people that you want them to be. Basically, you give them temporary access to decrypt or view the key that you want. So, anyways,
Like give someone like 24-hour access, or
even an hour, like just like how you can set sleep on your phone. You can do the same thing. You'd be like, okay, well, I know I'm going to be here for the next 2 hours. And then that's another thing too, for especially medical records, you can be able to, with smart contracts, you can literally program what this thing may do. So on your platform, you would say, all right, if I know I'm going to a holistic doctor, maybe a normal visit is no more than an hour. Great. So then now we say that, hey, you're going to sign this thing by clicking OK, the same way we agreed to things. And now that gives them permission to see all your medical records that you give permission for the next hour. And that's just basically a smart contract that you would have for every single user.
So, say I have a document on there and I want to share it with someone, and could you email it to that person, or maybe do like
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So the easiest way to think about blockchain and Web3 is like, what if instead of Amazon Web Services and Google Cloud and, Oracle and insert other big, database provider that runs all the services of the internet, it's saying, let's run an operating system that's a cloud operating system over a bunch of distributed servers that might be some random person's computer, but it also might be one of these server farms. But the point is, they're doing distributed computation to treat all of them as one giant computer instead of AWS separate from Google Cloud, separate from whatever. And the effect of that is to use a public database schema. So we would publish what the standards are for different patient records publicly, so that everyone knows what the socket for a blood type piece of data looks like. And then
if I wanted to, if I could, once I got done writing everything up and maybe doing like the pictures on how I want my app to look, could I then hand it to someone like yourself, and then you consult with me and tell me what you think the best option would be to get the desired results? Is that the way that would work?
100%. And then full transparency, the blockchain is not ready for healthcare records yet. Not yet. The part, well, depends on who you ask. You could say that some people think they're ready for healthcare records. I personally think there's shortcomings with it. But anyways, we can talk about that some other time. They're using this thing called a zero knowledge proof to do what you were trying to, or the question you were asking, which is, how do I show someone something without fully showing it to them so that they can have proof that they need to either verify the record or to give me an assessment or feedback on what a reading is on one of my records of my healthcare, right? So the way that they use that is sort of like this. The math equation sort of maps like a horseshoe, and you're looking for 2 points on the horseshoe that are essentially mirroring each other, and that's what generates the cryptographic keys that allows you to verify that you are the true original record holder using the cryptographic key that's not like a duplicate or corrupted or a fake record, essentially. And so that's the mechanism they're using, so that when you send someone that email PDF really quickly that expires in 24 hours, that actually happens.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
And especially too, like one thing I always say is that a lot of people think that cryptography is so far away, but if you know, like you have an iPhone, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, like when you go to like a new website and it says, hey, create a password, and then it gives you the suggestion of a strong password, and then it's like the most amount of letters and
That you're
numbers.
never gonna remember.
That's cryptography.
Yeah.
That's your public key. So basically it makes it impossible for a human to sit at a computer and be able to hack you. Basically, they have to more or less have a computer come up with that exact line of A, B, 269, A, zoo, all those things put to one. So then now, kind of like what you were talking about, each each user would have a specific line of those letters, and then now they would give permission to their alternative doctor and be like, hey, for the next hour, 2 hours, 24 hours, you get access to all these little letters. But after that 24 hours, it's gone. There's no taking it back. There's no like, you get to sell my stuff. It's like, and it's only view only.
Right.
That's the
And when
concept.
it's generating a temporary view that it's encrypting with and providing them with a temporary key to access that temporary view.
Yep.
Okay, cool. That's perfect. That's exactly what I'm kind of looking for to share specific data.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect example that I'll explain. Amazon already kind of does it with when you rent something on Amazon, like you rent a
Oh
movie on
yeah,
Amazon.
yeah,
Same concept. The only difference is you would just do it with medical records.
right.
You only get it for what, a couple days. So they've written a smart contract in a program that after 3 days, this person loses the movie. So same concept with you are just doing this, but you're doing with medical records. You'd be like, for 2 days, for the 90-day trial, for whatever amount of time that this user agrees on, and this doctor agrees on, basically you get to do it. So it's just the renting system, but you choose who gets to see your
Okay,
stuff.
so I want to throw this out there, okay, and just kind of bear with me on this because I'm not trying to spill any of my secret sauce here.
Yeah.
So say I'm all three of us we're using my app. Our
Mm-hmm.
records are there, and we're going somewhere, and we each have to prove that. I'm not trying to go political. I'm just using this as an example. Say we each have to prove that we had a vaccine, or that we were
Mm-hmm.
up to date on our shots. I want, and let's say we're going somewhere, and that somewhere is going to have several hundreds of us there, and they
Mm-hmm.
all want to do it. I also don't only want to have the app for us as the humans to with our our vaccine records, but I also want that place to be able to see all of them as well. So being able to share in there and have like almost like a URL
Yep.
or something for all of those records to go to that other place for it to be tangible for them to just people share in the app, and it goes somewhere for someone to say, oh, all of these people are good, this one isn't up to date, so this one can't come. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think, on some level it could look like partnerships with existing infrastructure like Clear at the airport, because I know they're also in like concert venues now and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
you would basically set up a process where the app speaks with Clear's like physical terminals, and basically, if they have medical record standards on their end that they need to have verified, basically they radiate out from the hardware the records they want to verify, and then the app is basically like giving them a signal back saying yes or no to the records that they're requesting. Like that could be one way to go about it, and then another way could be just simply I guess a QR scanner system, where
NFC chips works too. You could do
yeah,
that.
I mean, yeah, RFID scanners, like there are a lot of like ways that you could get into I guess, the receiving end, like to sell to the venues for this, like, let's call it um, health gating on some level. Um, so anyways, long story short is, yeah, I think it would look different. I might look to talk through partnerships with existing people and infrastructure providers because they've already got relationships with people who are using these security mechanisms, so gate people in and out. But then if I were also trying to build it out myself and focus on that as a part of the company, to go super light mode with it, I wouldn't try to build fancy chips or anything. I would look to build like a mobile application that's specific for the security providers to be the receiving end of the, whoever's trying to go through that needs to be verified. And just have it be a device to device communication for the time being as two separate apps. And if the security of that process was the holdup, then yeah, then I'd start looking into those hardware solutions that might be more specific. But I don't think I would try to complicate it with building hardware right out of the box.
Yeah. Good point. Yep. That was like kind of like another vertical I thought about going down.
No, I think it's a good and it's a natural vertical to go down, but I think what you don't want to chase things that are going to cost you a lot of money before you have the cash flow to pay for it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Nah, yeah, because I mean that's very very valid point too, though, because with the idea that you're doing too, I think that's a great concept. Because then now too, with what you were saying, is that what if I have a venue and I need to know every thing is good there, and then I just be able to scan. They just walk through, because now obviously there's have AI vision that's going to be coming along as well too. So then now once you be able to more or less be the platform, because I think we're going to have a lot of these big platforms that solve issues, and then it's like, how can these platforms? We have platforms now that are not solving issues; they're just in between you and another person doing something. So it's like Facebook is just kind of just me between the two of us, and they're just taking our data and making money from it. Whereas, some other platforms is like, hey, you get incentivized for liking and other things like that. It's like, okay, cool. Whereas your platform in this case would be, okay, yeah, for those big organizations, use us and we'll just more or less bring all that information and then just say that, okay, these people are good through a scan or different things like that. So, like I said, I mean, I think that you're working on a lot of cool things for sure. And that's true. I feel like it's a great time to just start getting really innovative and just start really asking those questions, especially.
Thank you. I really appreciate your guys' help and helping me brainstorm and point me in a good direction. And I can't wait to dive into what was what type of what was the question that you asked with the upon ChatGPT to get that output?
Oh, this one? Yeah. Oh, so Victoria, for coming on the show, we'll send you this in a document so you can have all of it.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Absolutely. And just for future reference, if you do use ChatGPT, we recommend ChatGPT 4 because ChatGPT 3.5 is not really smart enough to help you. So.
Okay. What is ChatGPT 4?
Yes. So it's a $20 a month one. Even if you just buy it for 1 month to get through some project work, definitely really worth it just for the upgraded level of intelligence.
All right, cool. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate you coming on. And I mean, like I said, I feel like it's always a fun time to especially get different, entrepreneurs and business owners from different industries and just, brainstorm on, how you can be able to tackle those problems, in your industry and stuff like that. So I appreciate you being able to take the time, especially on a long day. So appreciate it.
All right. We'll talk later, guys. See you on Thursday.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye.